Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Stomping Jen.
Yeah.
We're here again.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yes. Welcome to the Soft Serve podcast.
Why, thank you.
It's nice to see you. Do you know who we're talking to?
No.
We are going to be talking to Dan Walker. He is a photographer.
Uh-huh.
And he is somebody I know.
Oh.
Prior to...
In your prior life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we might end up talking a little bit about that. But Dan is a really cool guy. He's got a really good story. And I love his photography, which is why I reached out to him to see if he'd be interested in talking to us. And he was, so he's here.
Oh, excellent.
And
let's talk to him.
On the other side of the intro music, of course.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. Stomping Jen, I'm going to sing to you again. I can't help myself.
You choose not to.
You know what's funny? I wasn't going to sing to you. I was saying in my head.
Yeah, but then you couldn't help yourself.
I'm not going to sing to you. I know.
You can't help it.
I can't help it. You're somebody I feel the need to sing to. But I am not going to sing to our guest,
Oh, thank goodness.
Dan Walker. He doesn't want that,
No.
I'm sure. Hello, Dan.
Hi there.
Would you like a song? I can conjure one up.
A song.
I mean, you can feel free. I'm not going to object, but don't feel any pressure.
Let's see how this goes.
That was a little awkward.
If I feel
I think
inspired,
we should not be singing to our guests.
That sounds like a challenge to me, Stomping Jen. All right, let's see how this conversation goes, and if I feel inspired along the way, I will sing a song. Dan, thank you for coming on to talk to us. As I said in the intro, we know each other from our previous lives. We'll talk a little bit about what our current lives are. But anyways, it's really good to see you. Thanks for coming on. And as I started out saying, I really love your photography, and we're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But I just want to kind of give you an opportunity to say anything more about who you are, what you do, in the ways of introducing yourself to our listeners.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for the compliment, and it's great to see you too, and you as well. And I'm a photographer. I am originally from Massachusetts. I moved to Portland, Oregon, early 2018, and I've spent the bulk of the pandemic trying to carve out a photography career. I made a big switch, and I was working in higher education, and not in a photography role. And I was furloughed, and I decided to make a big switch. Here I am.
Yeah, and that is an incredibly brave thing to do. We've talked before on this podcast with a number of people, Stomping Jen included, who faced a employment situation, right? You were laid off from a company.
Yeah.
And Stomping Jen was like, fuck it. I don't ever want another boss again. I'm going to do me.
Yeah.
And she, like, over a couple of years, built this amazing business.
Oh, why, thank you.
Hold on.
Oh.
That's the celebratory noise, Dan.
Yes.
You'll hear this a lot, I'm sure.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I mean, anyways, that's an incredibly
It's a
brave move
yeah.
to make. So I just say congratulations. I mean, that's impressive.
Thank you. I'm not at the other side of it yet,
Yeah.
you know, where it's like, oh no, cool, I can make my, you know, living fully doing this. But I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah, I think
So,
taking those steps though, like just deciding to take those steps is a bold move, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could do it, Stomping Jen.
Uh-huh.
I hope no one's listening to this. They're like, we can help you with that, Sawtooth.
Yeah.
So, Dan, I have to ask you this. You're the second person I know who has moved across country to the Pacific Northwest. What is it? Yeah, what is it? What's it been like relocating from puritanical New England all the way out there to the Pacific Northwest? What's that been like?
Well, I can tell you that. I mean, it's been different. It's cool. While we do not have the same architecture and the same amount of history that New England does, and I miss that stuff. It's pretty chill out here. The nature is huge. You know, there's snow-capped mountains. There's just, I mean, Gifford-Pinchot National Forest is just over the Columbia River in Washington, and like, I mean, that's like the home of Bigfoot, you know.
Yeah.
But we don't have to go there. That's okay.
No. He wants you to go there.
No, we do have to go there. And I have.
You mentioned it, so now we have to go
sorry.
there.
No, don't be sorry. I should be thanking you. Let me ask you a question. Have you encountered anything out there in the woods or elsewhere to make you question whether or not such a creature exists?
No, but I have found mountain lion prints in the snow, and it was actually in Gifford on a forest road. And I got right out of there.
Oh my God.
Have you seen that video?
I was just thinking about that video.
That was going around on the web of the guy who was walking on some road and he was menaced by a mountain lion.
Yeah, he was in Colorado, I think, right? And
somewhere,
yeah.
Yes.
But you have those things right in your backyard. Those hissing claw monsters.
Kind of. They're actually, so we have all these buttes in Portland, and they're parks now, and they've spotted them on Powell Butte, which is not that far from. It's on the east side of Portland, but like, I mean, I go there.
Yeah.
And they've spotted them in there, and I'm like, oh my God. They're around, and it's terrifying, and it's so rare that you'll see one or let alone be attacked by one. But I'm absolutely like that. I think to wrap my head around actually has been one of the strangest things living out here, is to kind of get right with that. Which some people might not be bothered by, but for me, it was just like, man, we do not have that in Massachusetts.
No,
so,
and we used to, right? Like mountain lions were all over the place here at one point. Yeah,
we drove them to Oregon.
No, we exterminated them, and some people claim they still see them occasionally, and they've had biologists come in here because they've had some like credible sightings. They've researched them and they've never found evidence of like a reproducing population here, but some people swear they still see them.
Bobcats.
No, I mean mountain lions.
No, I know. I'm saying a different animal of a feline persuasion.
But that's a whole other kettle of cats. I mean, a bobcat probably can't kill you. I mean, if it's having a good day, it might be able to, right? Like, but probably it can't.
But mountain lions.
A mountain lion is going to kill you if it decides it wants to. And this is now, Dan, as a somebody who lives in the Pacific Northwest has to at least even think about that when you're out there in the woods. And that's like not anything we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, there was a woman who was killed in the Salmon Huckleberry Wilderness area of Mount Hood, and a couple of years ago, and she was hiking on her own, I think, and mountain lion got her. So I mean, it does happen. And then there was an attack in Seattle. A couple of cyclists were doing like some gravel riding outside of the city, and one of them.
Yeah. I feel like if you're riding a bike, at least you have a fighting chance because you can maybe get that bike between you and the lion, possibly.
Oh, yeah. The thing that bugs me about biking in the woods and mountain lions is that they're cats and they like to chase stuff
and hide and pounce.
And so if you start rolling by on your bike, they're going to go, ooh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you carry like spray or anything like that when you're out there?
I should. That's the thing. Like when I would do like, I mean, we might dive a little too deep into the cycling discussion before you want to. So, but
that's okay.
I would do a lot of like mixed terrain rides back in New England, dirt roads, old like carriage roads, and up into Vermont and such. And like, here it's like all gravel, timber, logging roads, and into like vast wilderness. And I should have some pepper spray or something, and probably a satellite phone on some of these rides out here. But I haven't been doing a lot of that this year because I haven't been riding with anybody.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that stuff alone. So I kind of just stick to the roads.
That's a good idea, not to go out there alone. And like you said, if you were ever ambushed by one of those things, you probably wouldn't even see it coming. Like,
yeah.
You'd have very little opportunity.
Cats are freaking sneaky.
Yeah, they are. They're sneaky.
I mean, we have 3 cats.
They sneak around.
And they're sneaky.
Yeah, they are sneaky.
They're sneaky little fuckers.
Yeah. So getting back to the move, so is it those natural elements that are like the most striking difference between New England and the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, I think so. We have a lot of old growth forest, temperate rainforest out here, and the trees are just massive. Like we have a huge Douglas fir tree in our backyard that is just huge. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
That stuff is everywhere. I mean, we can just Portland doesn't let, you can't take down a tree unless you can prove it's sick in the city. And there's a lot of tree canopy here. Which is very cool. But if you start driving east, you get out to the high desert, which is a whole different landscape.
Yeah.
And I think Oregon's huge. I mean, it's so funny. You don't really get the scale. You don't grasp it until you're here. Let's go to the other side of Oregon. It's like, well, okay, that's going to be like 5-6 hours away.
Yeah. And that's one of the things people who believe in Sasquatch say is that, like, you don't even understand the scale of the forest and that there are places for these things to live isolated.
Oh my God.
That's what they say.
I just had like a flash of you like in the forest hunting for Sasquatch.
We're going. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know. There's a documentary I watched a month ago with an investigative journalist named David Holthouse.
Yes, I saw that. It was amazing.
Okay, that was cool. That was cool, and that was Bigfoot related.
Yeah, for people listening to this, you can see that on Hulu, I believe, and it was kind of this story about this David Holthouse guy. He was involved in the pot growing industry back in the 90s, and he was at a grow operation in California, I think in Mendocino County, and a bunch of people ran into the camp screaming about Bigfoot dismembering a bunch of farmers. And the 3, I think it's 3 episodes, like the whole, or something like that. The the whole docuseries then kind of tries to unravel the mystery of what happened.
Oh, that sounds like riveting television for me.
Yeah.
I would fall asleep in 2 minutes.
Yeah. I stayed up all night and watched it
I
in
know
one sitting.
you love it.
Yeah.
Those are like the type of documentaries
Yeah.
that just put me right to sleep. They start and like I'm engaged for like half a minute.
Yes, Dan, Stomping Jen doesn't know this, but we'll be neighbors in the future because when I retire, I'm moving out there to primarily begin my search for the Sasquatch.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't news to me.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you stay in touch then, and we'll
Yes.
I'd be happy to be a bit of a guide out here.
Yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, I have a family member who relocated out there. I don't know. Are they near
I have no
Portland?
idea. I mean, are we allowed to say where they live?
You could say the town.
Ashland, which is south.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things about Ashland.
Yeah.
I haven't been there, but yeah,
It's
that's
like
pretty far south.
It's like a mountainy. I think he said
It's like a valley. I think.
near California, right? They're pretty close.
It's funny. Well, that's the closest airport is like San Francisco, right? That's the north one, or San Jose.
But it's not like rainforest like where you live.
No.
It's not like that.
It's like a valley.
Yeah. And it looks like, and they were subject to those fires last summer. Like they just barely missed them.
Oh yeah, man, we had like the kind of get ready to maybe go order, like and I mean we had a lot of smoke pouring into our place. It was rough,
scary
for a solid week there. Yeah.
How far are you guys from the ocean?
Good question.
Maybe under a couple of hours.
Okay.
Not
so
quite.
not close.
Hour and a half, maybe.
Oregon seems big to me.
I know. I'm like,
hearing all of this.
I know.
It's huge. And then the ocean is super dangerous out here too. So the sleeper waves like get people all the time, and someone just died climbing Mount Hood. It's extreme. There's a lot of crazy stuff.
Killer whales too, right?
He's making a case. He's like, Oregon's amazing. I'm gonna make it sound super dangerous and nobody comes.
Yeah. Well, we're planning to visit next summer.
Oh, wait, I have a question.
Yeah,
go ahead. Very serious question.
Go ahead.
Is Portland like Portlandia?
So in some ways, yes. Obviously, it shows a caricature of the culture here, but some ways, yes. This past winter, I certainly identified with this sketch where the Portlanders are like all huddling together in the one little ray of sunshine over the winter because it just rains.
Yeah.
Does it really just rain all the time there? Is it, or not all the time, obviously, but is it very rainy there?
It can. Yeah. I mean, it's there's a rainy season. It's a good 6 months of like,
oh God,
oh wow,
gray, rainy, and you get some sunshine interspersed here and there, but it's pretty, it can be a little tough, but right now this week it's been like in the 90s.
Oh, nice.
Jeez.
Super sunny.
Nice.
Savor those moments. I bet you appreciate them more when you get them.
Yeah, I don't know if I can move to Oregon.
Yeah,
we're in the dry season now, so it's like the sun is great, and until things catch on fire.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh God.
So
All right. Let's talk about photography.
Well, hold on. I want to ask a couple more questions.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
More Sasquatch.
Sorry, just a few more questions.
Are they about Sasquatch?
Yeah. All right. We can go. All right. We'll go on. No, they're not about Sasquatch. We'll come back to this. All right.
I'm not saying I don't believe. I'm not saying I believe. But it's interesting. I'll leave that there.
Yeah.
Well, when we do a Bigfoot episode, you're coming on, and you're going to get the full blast of sawtooth Sasquatchery. I'm just holding back, Stomping Jen. I'm restraining myself.
Fully aware.
I could see the look you're giving me. Don't you dare. Okay. So I've been looking at your photographs now for a couple of weeks since you made an announcement that I think you had started a website and all of that. And you don't look like somebody to me who has just started taking pictures. And I'm kind of curious what drew you in to photography, like as an art form. Like when did you start with it? What did you find appealing about photography?
Yeah, I would say probably in the 90s when I always had a camera, 35 millimeter film camera when I was a little kid. And I would say like in the mid 90s when I started going to see bands, I would I would get up on the side of the stage and just shoot pictures of the bands.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still have like a whole, box full of old film photos from that time. And some of them are all right. Like, I wasn't operating like a pro camera in manual mode at that point, but and I thought about going to school for photography, and a few of the colleges I was accepted to were for photography, but I didn't really have a portfolio and didn't end up going to school for that, and did some other stuff, and went to school for some other things, but and then I've always been sort of interested, and I've since then have always had like an SLR camera, like the semi-pro camera.
Is that a digital camera, an SLR?
No, it was, but yeah, SLR is more like, so that can apply to both film and digital camera. It's just a single lens reflex. But so I did, I always took photos, and I just didn't really, I was really interested in learning how to dial in, full manual mode and get what I wanted to get out of my images. And I kind of like was partially there for years and like didn't really just dig in hard enough to do it. And my pictures were like, okay, and I liked taking them, and that was enough, I guess, for a long time. And then when I moved out here, my girlfriend got me a mirrorless Sony camera, so it just doesn't have that reflective, that the mirror mechanism inside of it, and it uses an electronic viewfinder instead of like reflecting the image through the lens to it. So you just look at a screen basically, but it's little eyepiece, and that was like it was a little Sony, and I got a couple of lenses for it eventually, and started to take some online classes. And we like to travel. Last year was tough. I think the last place we went was probably Joshua Tree in March of 2020, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple of photos from Joshua Tree on my website, and that was like when I was really just like barely kind of scratching the surface of knowing what I was doing. So, I think the pandemic sort of necessitated, there's a lot of landscape stuff on my website. I would love to photograph more people. I'm planning on doing that. But I think that the pandemic sort of just kind of, for me, because I wasn't already in that world of being able to shoot portraits of people, and I didn't know what was going on with the virus, and didn't really feel super safe trying that, like, and also kind of being new out here on the West Coast and not really knowing enough people to, say, hey, do you want to be my subject? And
that's interesting, because in looking at your posted work, and I want to encourage people listening to this maybe to pause and go look at Dan's website. It's danwalker.me. Like, that's one thing that stood out to me, is the lack of people in your photographs. I think I found a photo with one person in it. And it's interesting to hear, and it was interesting to hear you talk about how you got started early photographing bands, right? Which is, mostly people, right? Stomping Jen? People, play
people
music.
have to play the instruments. So yeah,
right.
I would say yes.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. So I wanted to ask you about that, but I think you explained to us why that was. Yeah.
Well, yes. And I guess I got off the track there a little bit, but, so I guess what attracted me to photography as a medium would probably be capturing fleeting moments, capturing human emotion, and being able to look at that still image, which is not real life. It's subjective. Even if it's a document, it's still subjective based on what I see out of that greater context, and, you know, trying to decide what do you exclude from that context, what do you keep in the frame, I kind of, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you totally capture emotion in these pictures that don't have any people in. Like this one's
that's the challenge.
But my favorite is this one that I'm looking at. That's like streaks of light. Like I don't even know what I'm looking at, but it's super cool.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. That I capitalized on.
But you know, no mistake here. Like that's amazing. Yeah, like I love it.
I want to go back to something Dan said about photography capturing human emotion. And Stomping Jen, you just talked about that. And it reminds me of our recent conversation we had with a poet who we were Adam Grabowski. We were talking to him, and he mentioned that the closest art form in his mind to poetry is photography, for its ability to capture raw emotion. And like it had never occurred to me before, really. Like, I think I probably knew that, but it's interesting that we have another artist here talking about that. There seems to be some kind of connection. And Dan, like, when I look at your photos, I'm really interested in your process here, because you have such an eye for composition. I'm looking at these things, and they're like, the images are just so beautifully framed. And I was just kind of curious, like, how you approach a shot, and do you spend a lot of time thinking about, you know, I want to capture it this way, I need to line up the elements this way, you know, in the frame, or I'm not sure I'm even using the right language, but just talk to us a little about composing these shots, because, like, I don't even know how to say it. I just want people to go look at these because they are so beautifully composed.
Okay. So yeah, I guess you know, some of the easiest stuff, like the low hanging fruit is like a great landscape, right? Like you walk up to it and you see the subject. You're like, oh, cool. There's like a big rock feature, or like, you know, something epic looking, right? And so, you know, and rather than put that dead center in the frame, I mean, there's rules, in quotes, photography, but in composition, but you know, all that stuff is fine to play around with. And so I try to simplify my images as much as possible, so there's not too much information. Sometimes that's really hard. I find that particularly difficult living in this city. So getting out of bounds, you know, out into the wilderness is generally a lot easier to do that. Or getting like really zooming in on something and excluding all the chaos, visual chaos around it. So it depends what the subject is. And sometimes it's a matter of finding a subject in a composition that isn't obvious. That's challenging. I try to do that with city photography. I'm trying to think of a good example.
I'm looking this one of it almost looks like an apartment building of some kind at night, and I feel like the subject here is this like illuminated doorway that's shining some light out onto the street. Like that's the thing that's standing out to me, and I don't know that I ever would have noticed that, like if I was walking by it. Or
is that the one with
the cars are on the drive?
Is there like a brake lights that are streaking through
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So that one, I was taking photos off of the Burnside Bridge. And I like night photography quite a bit. And that gets pretty sketchy here, but that was a fun one. Cause it put me a little higher up on the level of the middle of that building. And, but yeah, no, I had been shooting on the other side of the bridge, and And then I kind of, after I was done taking some city shots over there, I went to this side of the bridge and noticed that building and the light coming through the door. And I just thought that was cool. And then luckily there was a car that had just, started up, and I said, "Ooh, great." So I set up and did like, I don't know, I want to say like a 10-second exposure or something like that.
And that's how you get the streaking brake lights, by a longer exposure.
I really like light trails too. Those are fun.
Yeah. But the thing that catches me and intrigues me, I think there's lots of interesting elements in this particular picture, but like my eye is drawn to that doorway. Like something's going to come out of it. I want to go into it.
Mine was too. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of your pictures, especially the night ones, have this kind of ethereal, almost, these are my words, my reaction, like ethereal, eerie quality to them. Do you achieve that? Is that an effect of the process you're using in taking the pictures, or is this, are you trying to create that?
I guess so. I mean, it depends on the day and, what I'm looking at and how I'm feeling, but I feel like that's something that I do strive for. I don't necessarily feel like I've really achieved that, but I appreciate the compliment. It's a hard thing to do, I think. And some of that comes down to editing afterward. And that's a whole different beast. Someone who I look to for that kind of work is Dina Litovsky. I actually took a brief workshop with her virtually, and that was great. She does a lot of work for Nat Geo and did a project called Dark City 2020. And yeah, you can find that on her website, and it's all night shots of New York City during the pandemic. And a lot of times it's just like one person in the shot looking real lonely, or, people in their lit apartment windows, from the side of the street. And it's really striking stuff. And I think that would probably hit the same notes. And I don't want to do what she's doing necessarily, but she's got some great stuff in it. And it's, that's been a source of inspiration for me for sure.
It's so interesting. Sorry, I don't mean to. There's another photographer that I follow. I don't even know how but also did that same thing. Went out at night in New York City, like 3:00 in the morning, and took a lot of photos. And
that's interesting.
But I'm pretty sure it's not who you're referring to. Yeah. So interesting.
And what is it about night that attracts you and intrigues you?
Everything changes.
Yeah.
I don't have to be out all day sweating in the hot sun, getting sunburned. No, it's the lights come on in the city, and like the natural light gets low, the artificial light turns on, and I think that's a cool balance. I like that the play between both of those sources of lights, and I like that you can do something where it looks a little supernatural, maybe, where you have light trails, because you had to leave your shutter open 30 seconds, a minute, or whatever. And it just makes it look a little, I don't know, a little surreal, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. These night photos, there's like an unsettling element to them. And in a good way for me. Like, it just like makes me think, like a monster is going to come charging out of the woods or something. Like, I love it.
Some of those I've felt like that while I was shooting them.
Yeah.
Like the one in Forks, Washington. I can't express to you how incredibly dark it is up there.
I like the shot of the car from the front.
Which one is that, Stomping Jen?
The one at the bottom.
Oh yeah, that old-timey car.
I love old-timey.
Yeah.
Old, when cars were made out of metal.
Do people, when you're out photographing in public, in doing these kind of documentary style shoots. You're capturing what's out there on the street. Do people ever like challenge you, like, "Hey, what are you doing taking a picture of my car?" Because I could see like this car has the license plate on it, or like maybe that guy wouldn't have been so happy, or that woman, or that person, would not have been so happy about that. Like, I'm curious, like, have you ever been, assaulted or challenged or?
No, I think I've gotten some pretty hard looks, but I try not to do stuff that looks too sketchy. Like, I'm not out to be a creep, but like, I won't photograph people's kids, unless that's like something we discuss ahead of time, or, and so, but yeah, cars are, I feel a little weird about doing those. Less weird than I do about approaching people to take their photo, but still a little weird, because somebody owns that. Somebody's sitting in their, house, maybe looking at it, or out in the front yard. Or often in Portland, I find there's like every car on the curb is occupied, like somebody's sitting in it almost all the time.
Wow.
But this one was pretty broken down, and the back end needed a couple new tires. And
yeah, you have this. Yeah, there's this really interesting photo you have. It looks like of a pharmacy or a drugstore. It says Willoughby on it, and then hearing aids. And it's the one picture with a person in it, and that person is like looking off to their right. And in my mind, in like a really concerned way, like somebody's coming after them. Like, did you talk to them at all before you took that, or was this just what you saw?
I did not speak to that person at all. I'm not even sure that he saw me. And he was, I think he was really looking that way because he was about to cross the street. But I think he was also pretty concerned. There was a group of folks, there's a 7-Eleven across the street from there. And there was a group of folks that we have a lot of people living on the streets here. A lot. It's intimidating, and it's sad, and it's a hard situation. But I think he was looking at, there was a group of folks hanging out in front of the 7-Eleven there that were being very loud, and kind of jumping around a lot, and in a way that was kind of concerning, I think. And he was looking over there, and I kept doing double takes too while I was shooting pictures.
Yeah, like there's definitely, in my mind, again, he's definitely conveying a sense of concern, or, imminent, there's like some kind of danger in the air. And that's and like back to this idea about pictures conveying emotion, and they tell stories like poems, right? Stomping Jen?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm making up all of these stories in my head for these photos that I'm seeing, and that's what I love
about the photos.
Yeah,
that's cool, because if I had included that group of people in front of the 7-Eleven in the frame, there's no mystery, right?
Right, exactly, and that's part of the composition, right?
Right.
Listen, I don't know anything about anything, Stomping Jen. I'm working through this live.
You're so funny. I like that empty gas station.
Yeah. It's eerie. I love it. I love these. So everybody go on Dan Walker's site, danwalker.me, and look at these pictures as you hear us talking about them. What kind of, so you're using a digital camera now, right? With this mirrorless digital camera. That's your preferred tool?
For now, yeah. The industry seems to be moving toward mirrorless. They're more compact camera bodies. They don't have a moving mechanism inside of them that can shake, vibrate the camera like a mirror, like an SLR with a mirror does. So if you're doing a long exposure, right, and the mirror clicks, the camera's going to shake just a little bit. So the mirrorless stuff can be a little more compact, maybe a little better performance that way. But I've got a couple of lenses, and it's really kind of an events kit. Like that was my initial goal when I invested in some new gear was to have, a couple of lenses and a body, and eventually a second camera body where, yeah, I could work some events. And I finally actually shot a bike race last night for the first time with that equipment. And that was challenging, but
Yeah. Is that
so I mean, that's digital. Digital is my preferred at the moment,
Was the bike race challenging because the things are moving? The compositional elements that you want to catch are moving?
Yeah, whole different ball game.
Yeah.
It's like I can just set a focus point in a landscape photo and just shoot that, and unless there's wildlife or something, but when you have a moving target, yeah, I had to crank my shutter speed and my ISO and like just the whole exposure triangle to try and get, the light was challenging. Like everything was just changing. It was in the evening. And I think I walked away with like 1,300 photos.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Just
Does that
trying
mean
trying to get things right.
Yeah. And how many of those do you think, what percentage of those do you think will be usable?
I don't know, maybe a quarter, but we'll see. I mean, it's a 6-week series and it's in a park, right? Like a mile from the house. So like got time to refine it.
Do you, so afterwards, do you think about what you walked away with, the process you used, and what you're going to do differently next time? Like, are you already thinking? Yeah. So you're, yeah.
Yep. As the sun was setting and I realized I wasn't going to have any more natural light to really play around with, and the last race was starting to end, I thought, okay, well, I walked the whole like 1.5 mile course, and it's up and down a mountain basically. And it's like, yeah, I was already thinking about, okay, what spots did I like, what were the best locations for shooting, and what worked, what didn't, what were my settings and the camera that I liked, what worked, what didn't, that kind of stuff, and what would I do next time. And so I made some notes and just kind of, it's just a process of refining, and it's nice when that's repeatable. So I am like trying to be adept at event shooting or action photography shooting, and that's honestly, there's been no shows, there's been no bands, and that was one of my goals, was to shoot inside venues before the pandemic hit. And I was already talking to a couple of venues out here, as to how you get the credentials to do that. And sometimes it's the venue, sometimes it's the artist management team that you have to reach out to, but that's on my list. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And do you use a similar process? I'm looking at this photograph on your website of a wave that looks like it's breaking.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that strikes me about this is it doesn't seem blurry at all, right? Like I would think because of the motion of the wave, it might be blurry. And are you using a similar technique there that you used like with the bike race?
Yeah, pretty fast shutter speed to freeze the motion.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know
like
any.
That photo.
Yeah, I love this. I don't know anything about photography. And
you take nice pictures.
Who?
You.
You know why though?
Because you take 1,000,000 pictures.
There's that, and I spend a lot of time thinking about the compositional elements. Like when you were talking, Dan, like I'll stand there for 2 minutes waiting for that bird to leave, or that car to finish driving through, or the cat to walk out of the frame. Like, I spend a lot of I spend a lot of time waiting. And then the other thing Stomping Jen mentioned is I take a ton of pictures, and I'm like, okay, there'll be a good one in there somewhere.
Honestly, that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
is trying to be patient and think about the composition and take 1,000,000 photos, because eventually, one of them is going to be good. And you can do that with digital, and that's nice. So
Yeah. Do you when you take 1,300 bike pictures, and let's say you want to keep 100 of them, do you just trash the other ones? Do you send them into the digital graveyard, or do you keep them somewhere for later?
Well, I'm in the middle of that process for the first time now, pretty much. I mean, I've shot some bike races in the years past, but not in a serious way. And I would think, there's like a whole burst of shots where, the autofocus didn't grab anybody. And so it's just, everybody's blurry. And like the tree in the back of the frame is in focus, And so those images, I would just trash those. There's really not much I can do with them. So there's going to be quite a bit of my trash bin's going to be pretty full soon, I think, of many photos, but I did get some good ones. So I think that'll be all right.
So that's not a hard thing for you to do, is just to permanently delete those ones that you've judged are not worth keeping.
I can't delete photos.
I hear you.
It's hard.
Yeah. My tendency is to be a photo file hoarder, but I think with the number of images that are coming in, like, I think that was like 60 gigs worth of images.
Too many gigs.
It's just like, if they're not going to be usable, and if the ones that are like maybe usable, I would keep those, because I've often gone back to my shots later, and I mean, even sometimes months later, and been like, why didn't I edit this one? And then I'll do an edit, and it's like, oh, that's a beautiful photo, amazing. How did I just not see that the first time around?
And do you know? Do you have time when you're shooting something? I wouldn't think you would have time when you're shooting like a bike race to know if you're getting good shots. Like, I would think that has to come later because stuff is moving so fast. Or can you tell as you're going?
I usually do a quick check. I'll hit the playback button and just kind of zoom in really quick on the LCD screen and see if, is what I wanted in focus actually in focus, or is what I wanted blurry enough, or, that kind of stuff. I can usually get a decent idea, but I won't really know until I get home and look at it on a larger screen.
Yeah. I always ask this question. Do you use Macs or Windows?
I've used both. Right now I'm on a Mac. I like Macs.
Yeah, me too.
They're expensive though. And I feel like my, jumping into my new career is maybe not going to allow me to afford more Macs, but we'll see.
Yeah. And you were talking about post-processing before, I think, and making adjustments. Like, in my mind, you should, not you, but anyone, mostly myself, should be able to take a picture and that should be it. Right?
What?
Like, I should be able to take a picture, it should look good, and I should be able to move along with my life, right? And I don't think, until we've talked to other photographers, and I wanted to get Dan's take on this, I don't think I really understood how important the post-processing is in the photography process. Stomping Jen, I don't think I understood that. I'm an impatient person. I want to take a picture and just have it be perfect. But that's often not the case, right, Dan? You have to futz around a bit.
Yeah, sometimes. So I shoot raw files, which look a little rough out of the box. If you shoot JPEG, the camera will do its processing for you. And like Sony processes their JPEGs a little different than like Nikon processes their stuff versus Canon. And so, and that stuff can be fine, which I guess much like iPhone or like, cell phone photography, you could place into the realm of computational photography where the device is doing all the work for you. You might set up the shot, but ultimately the device is processing the image for you. And that,
Stomping Jen, is why I take good pictures, because this friggin' iPhone is doing all the work for me.
iPhone isn't going to get you anywhere with composition. So like that's all you.
Mm.
And that's a skill that I had to learn. I really was bad at it. Like my girlfriend will she can takes great smartphone shots, and she can just get a great composition. I was terrible at it, and it frustrated me to no end. And I had to like really, really work hard. Like you can learn that stuff, but it just didn't, I don't want to say it didn't come naturally, but like it just was, I found it challenging to get compositions that were effective for a long time. So,
well, the work paid off really. Did you watch YouTube videos on composition? I watch YouTube videos on everything. And
isn't that an amazing resource?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just such a wealth of knowledge and also garbage, but so much knowledge, like,
yeah.
You know, and if you can sift through it, like it's such a helpful tool. I did watch some YouTube videos, usually like short tutorials, if there's some little skill, something like, but ultimately what I really did was, I ended up, through my last employer, I had access to LinkedIn Learning.
Oh yeah.
And so they scooped up all lynda.com stuff. And they had classes by this guy, Ben Long, who's a San Francisco based photographer. And I think he's an editor at Macworld as well. And he's just got endless courses on every aspect of photography you could ever imagine. And I just like devoured all of that. And so I learned, you know, the exposure triangle through those classes. I learned composition through those classes. I learned night, you know, the fundamentals of night photography, and then off-camera flash photography. And then I took a bunch of courses with Justin Resnick, who's I think he's in Seattle-based landscape fine art photographer. Because we were planning a trip. You know, we had gone anywhere. We're like, we got to get out of Portland. Like, we have to go somewhere. Last year it was just like awful. And so we were like, do you think it'd be safe if we go up to Olympic National Park? We can probably stay away from people if we go during the week, you know. And for the most part, we were able to stay away from people. But so leading up to that trip, you know, I watched a ton of landscape photography videos, classes from Justin Resnick, and his stuff is beautiful. And so,
is that where you took this rock outcropping picture? Was that at Olympic National Park, this black and white one?
Oh yeah. So that's a C stack.
What's a C stack? Like a slee stack?
Like volcanic, you know, you'll see them stacked in the ocean. I'm gonna really mess this one up, but I think they're volcanic, you know, outcroppings that stick out of the ocean. And this was low tide, so there's tide pools. We'd actually hiked, I want to say it was a couple of miles out on Rialto Beach in Olympic National Park, which to get to Hole in the Wall, which is a feature that I think I also have on my website. But this one, I took this photo, and it was a color photo originally, and I kind of didn't like it. The sky was boring, you know, there were no clouds, and it just wasn't doing anything for me. And then I came back to it a couple months later and converted it to black and white and said, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm into that one. So, and sometimes that's what it is. It's just simplifying the image. And if that means taking the color away, then sometimes that's great. Your brain has to do a little more work to fill in the blanks on an image where, you know, you can't see all the colors. And sometimes that can be, you know, you can use that to your advantage.
I'm glad you didn't throw that away, because that's a striking image. And imagine all it took was, you know, stripping the color out of it and doing something, making some other adjustments. That's something else.
Somebody thought it was a mountain. And
I can
it's really just like,
I can totally see that.
I kind of like that little bit of illusion where, like, if you look quick, you might you might think that.
I did think that for sure. Yeah.
It wasn't small, but it certainly wasn't a mountain. And on the other side of that rock was a bald eagle in its nest.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't have a lens long enough to get a really good shot. Like a wildlife lens would be like, 600 millimeter focal length, which I think I top out at like 200.
Wow. That's awesome.
I got some shots of them, but not anything worth like, no fine art type of shots or anything.
Yeah.
But
and honestly, we've got enough bald eagle pictures out there in the world.
Give me more streaks of light.
Yeah.
Light streaks.
Yeah.
And sea stacks. Slee stacks.
We've all seen bald eagles.
Slee stacks.
Dan, you mentioned before, if you're okay, I want to talk a little bit about cycling because you mentioned before that you were really into cycling.
Yeah.
Kind of another passion of yours. You mentioned you've been doing it for 12 years or so, and I'm curious how you got into that sport and what draws you to it as a recreation.
So when I was, I had a bike when I was a little kid, and BMX bike, and I would ride around and when I was a teenager, like we would, some friends of mine would ride to a music store in Enfield, Connecticut, from Forest Park neighborhood of Springfield, which I think was like a 12-mile round trip. And we would do these little trips once in a while in the summer. And, it was like, oh, big deal, when we were like, I want to say we were like young teenagers, like 13, maybe 14 even. But, and then I think it kind of just, I always wanted to go cruise around on bikes, and I always had a bike. And then I think in 2005, I went and got like a real bike, like my first like, multi-speed, bike. It was actually a cyclocross bike, which is a thing I'll explain in a minute, but it looked like a road bike. So I started riding that around, and I just have always wanted to, I just had like a need to get out and expend energy. And I felt like that was the first way that like running kind of never took for me, even though I do run, like it would never like, it just didn't feed whatever I was looking for. I don't know, but cycling was really fun. And then when I started doing that with other people, it became it's that kind of synergy and like, the ability to like just maintain your fitness and like kind of forcing you to like think about your dietary choices too in order to perform better. And like my rides kept sort of expanding, and when I was riding alone back in like 2005 2004 or 05, and then I linked up with a local bike shop in East Long Meadow, Mass. And I met great people there, and we grew together. Their group rides, their Monday night rides, to be like in the middle of summer, we'd have like 50 people on these rides.
So it sounds like there's an aspect of community to it that was really appealing and attractive.
There is. And I have missed that the most over the last year plus, like,
yeah. And so one of the things I know about you from our previous lives, when we were working together, is you're highly adept at technical things. You worked in like kind of like the AV world, and I've known other people who are really into biking, and one of the things they're attracted to are like the technical aspects of their bikes, like building them, getting the right gear set, making sure you have the right calipers, and shaving off a few ounces by getting this particular seat, or like, I'm curious if you find the technical aspects of biking attractive and you dive into those things?
To some degree.
Yeah.
I try not to be too obsessed with that stuff, and like I'll do a little bit of tinkering on my bikes, but some of that stuff is pretty like complicated. I mean, I've got hydraulic disc brakes on my bikes now, and
Yeah.
I don't know how to bleed my brake lines. I should, but I'll take that to a shop. But I think I'm interested in the technology of it, only as far as its like reasonable functionality. Like, do these brakes stop the bike in a way that I like? Does this bike not weigh too much? Does it get me where I want to go? Does it achieve the desired result? Like, I try not to get too focused on those technical details. And I think honestly, some of that, it's funny. Like I did work in various technical roles. I mean, I did event production AV for years prior to working in academic technology. And I miss that world because that's live events. It's theatrical. It's sometimes it's music. I mean, music was really that is a driving factor for me. But let me get back into what were we talking about?
I sent us there with our technical talk about bikes. You mentioned you were gonna tell us a little bit more about the type of bike you rode or started on, which was a cyclocross bike. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So it's a drop bar bike. It looks like a road bike, but it has thicker, knobbier tires and wider brakes. Of course, now they have disc brakes generally, but so those were used for like muddy races called cyclocross races. They're like circuit races. It's like the steeplechase of bike racing. It's on a fairly short course, but it's varied terrain, and then you have to actually dismount while moving and hop over barriers or an obstacle, and then remount. And it's pretty wild, but and it happens in the fall. And I've been racing cross for, I think, since 2010. I took a couple of years off here and there, but
I've seen people riding around our town with those bikes, and I've always wondered what they are.
There's a lot of mountain biking in our town.
Yeah, no, but these are the bikes that Dan was describing. They look like road bikes, but they got these fatter tires on them.
Are you sure those are not electric bikes?
No, they're definitely not electric bikes. That's fascinating. Do you ride that type of bike now, or you do a different type of biking?
I do have one. It's been a good kind of all rounder for like, not only racing, but I can slap some fatter tires on it and take it on those like, deep woods logging road rides, and even some single track stuff that, would probably be better for a mountain bike. But I have not had a mountain bike since I've lived out here. I miss it. There's so much crazy riding out here that I haven't explored yet as far as mountain biking trails go. But I sold my mountain bike when I moved here, and I didn't buy a new one yet. But I do have a road specific bike as well.
Yeah.
God, bikes are expensive.
Yeah, they are.
They are. Oh, I don't know how I'm ever going to continue riding my bikes and maintaining them with.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm going to have to take $1 million shot. And
yeah, it's interesting. My bike that I have, I got it in, I think, 1994. Like a lot of things I got that involve the outdoors when I was in college. Like there's a period of time where I bought a bunch of stuff in the early to mid 90s. It's like a Trek aluminum frame mountain bike that I used for quite a few years and threw in my parents' attic where it sat for probably 15 years, 18 years. And I pulled it out and took it to a bike shop, and the guy there was like, "This is a great frame." He's like, "It's in mint condition. It's perfect." So he like changed a bunch of stuff on it. I put road tires on it.
Changed out the handlebars.
Got old people handlebars, so I don't have to lean.
And a cushier seat.
Yeah, a fat seat for my tuchus.
Your what?
My tuchus.
Say that again.
Tuchus.
I'm saying it wrong.
How do I say it?
Tuchus.
Oh, thank you.
Get it.
For the
Sorry.
Yiddish, right? That's Yiddish?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so, and it gets me where I need to go, which is down.
Which is nowhere.
Which, thanks, Stomping Jen.
He goes on a bike ride with us on the bike path for like 6 miles.
That was so cold.
Well, he's never like, oh, let's go for a bike
Yeah.
ride ever.
Thank you, Stomping Jen.
It's okay. We're old. It's all right.
Yeah, but yeah, so anyways, I make do.
Sorry.
I'm getting old myself, so
Yeah. Have you ever been hurt while biking?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's the worst injury you've received?
Well, I guess it's never been anything that serious. I haven't broken a bone biking. Although no. So I think the worst injury. Let's see.
You think about it. I'm going to tell you mine. And
This is why he doesn't go anywhere.
This will prove what a gangster I am, right? I was
12.
When I was 12. I was riding my bike. It was just like a Schwinn 10-speed road bike, and I went off a curb. And when you go off a curb, you pull up the handlebars to jump a little bit.
Oh, I remember, did you do a Superman over the bars?
Well, my front tire came off. The quick release wasn't screwed on, and the forks went down into the thing. And I did the Superman and broke my collarbone.
Ooh,
right, and I remember feeling.
One.
Yep, I remember feeling it break, and then I remember fainting. I passed out. I woke up in the street, and some woman stopped and asked me if I needed a ride, and I screamed at her because I was in shock. I was like, "No, leave me alone." I picked up my bike, slung it over my non-broken shoulder, and walked a mile home.
Oh my God.
Yeah, with it. And then I walked through the door, and my mother was like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you?" Then they took me to the hospital. So
that's badass.
Yeah. Never doubt me, Stomping Jen.
God. I have a bike injury story. Dan, did you think of your bike injury story?
Let Dan tell his, then you could tell yours.
Well, mine was the worst injury was when I was pretty young. I think I was 8 years old. This is a little depressing, so let me apologize to you and whoever ends up listening.
I have perfect. If this is depressing, I have perfect music for it. God. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. So, I was 8 years old. I was riding my bike to my friend Rob's house. I had to cross my street, which was a busy street.
Okay.
I decided to, I did get off my bike to walk it across the street. So this wasn't like I was on my bike and the accident happened. I was walking my bike.
Yeah.
And I was on sort of a curved area of the road. And 19-year-old guy was driving his car and he hit me.
Oh my God.
He hit my bike. My bike hit my leg and broke my femur.
Oh,
Jesus.
And I was in Bay State Hospital for 6.5 weeks in traction.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh. How did
that music still playing? I hope so.
Yeah. How did that not immediately pop into your mind? That's horrible.
Well, it wasn't because I've fallen down. Yeah. I've scraped up. I did tear my arm open in a cross race in Hartford once. But yeah, that was I think that was a thing that probably that accident. I had a half body cast for the rest of that summer of '88.
What was that like being in traction for 6 weeks?
It was awful.
I'm sorry.
I was No, it's okay.
If I see a scab, I pick at it. That's part of my job.
No, it's cool. It's a thing. And I had okay, well, so sorry. There's a lot I could say about it, but traction. Yes, that was crazy. They drilled a pin into my lower leg in order to put my whole leg in traction. And they did this. They handed me a pain pill. They were like, "Here, swallow this," and then just started drilling it.
What the fuck?
Dude, it was crazy. I will never forget it. And I was in there for 6.5 weeks in traction. I was a jerk to the nurses. Like, I just was. So I don't really remember, but I'm told that I was not kind. And but it's 8 years old, man.
Yeah,
what the hell is going on? You
giving you
your leg
pills and drilling into your leg.
Oh my
and they're
God.
like, hey, use this bedpan or whatever. And,
Oh my
you're like, oh
God.
So they took the pin out at the end of my time there when they were going to put the cast on, and this was 88, so things are not like now. They just put a pole in your bone and you walk out.
Yeah.
But so they tried to give me like enough drugs they said to my mother, we gave him enough drugs to knock out a horse.
Oh my God.
But he just won't like go to sleep. And I had to watch them like unscrew this pin from my lower leg.
Oh,
it was disgusting. I'll never forget it.
God.
And then I spent the rest of the summer, and partially in that half body cast, and then recovering and learning how to walk again. And then
oh my God.
And then I had recurring nightmares until I was 28.
My God.
Oh my God.
So I now have the worst. Now I have the most non-impressive bike story.
Oh no, mine's even less impressive.
You might not even want to tell it.
Yeah, I'm not going to even tell it. It's so boring.
What? I'm sorry. See, you should have told it before mine. I'm sorry.
You can't follow that, Stomping Jen.
No.
You can try.
No.
Does it involve a banana seat?
I don't think so.
It's not a contest. It's not a contest.
I mean, it was
if I
like...
could take that out of my history, I would. I don't want that injury.
I mean, it was like the 80s and like, kids were not required to wear bike helmets.
Oh, yeah.
At all.
I think I'm about to hear something that's going to explain a lot. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I remember getting a bike and I know where it happened. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if I just lost control of the bike, but I did fall in the middle of the street and banged my head pretty bad.
I'm sorry that happened.
And I think I had like an egg on my head for a really long time. I never told anybody either.
Did you crash into a chicken
tell,
truck?
Like my parents or anything. Wow. I just got up and like left with a wet snowboard.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, well, why bother tell anybody that this stupid thing happened?
You know what?
Oh, why tell anyone I have a concussion? It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
just take a nap.
I think we all have these stories, right? I'm going to get serious here for a second. We grew up in an incredibly dangerous time.
Yeah,
people didn't wear helmets. There was no real thought about safety on bikes.
Yeah, you have to wear your seatbelt.
It's amazing.
Pile the kids out. We were at a friend's house and we were talking about that. How they had like 8 kids and they had a station wagon and they would come up with very creative ways to get those kids in the car.
Yeah. It's amazing we survived.
I know.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I'm glad you were able to get back on a bike.
I am really sorry that you had nightmares forever. That's terrible. Yeah. Please don't have a nightmare tonight.
No. That was a long time ago. The last one I had was 2008. I mean, yeah, it was interesting. I would always like wake up in a cold sweat, and like, I would like visualize the impact of the accident. Mm-hmm. And then I would wake up, and anyway, I think that was probably indicative of some PTSD.
Yeah, seriously. But, like another new concept, right? Like a newer concept, PTSD. Like, yeah, maybe people who experience traumatic accidents might need ongoing care. Maybe.
I'll tell you something. I can tie this into a bigger picture too. That I think that, and I know you don't want to go too much over your time here, but
no, we can go as long as you want. Go ahead.
Sometimes I think about like the trajectory of my life, and I think, okay, that accident happened when I was 8. So obviously some PTSD that stuck around for like 20 years, and at least in terms of those like nightmares, and then I think like I found cycling, which is a little odd given it was sort of a bike related kind of accident, but in a way, but and when I ended up riding with people, that was like a huge confidence builder. I had like no confidence. Like I just super low self-esteem, and like, and finding a sport that I could get pretty good at was cool. I was never like a super athletic kid, but I wanted to be, but like wasn't into like sports, and cycling is kind of like it's a little off the path of, beaten path of sports where it seemed cool to me. And I met good people doing that and found community there and was able to kind of like become I don't know, a better version of myself, I guess. And then to try like racing, like be super competitive. And that was something I never really saw for myself, when I was younger. And then I started racing when I was 30.
Wow.
And, I'm just like an amateur. I'm like second to, well, I guess I went up in a couple categories, like I'm not slow, but, yeah. And then I think, and what's interesting and tying this back to photography and just general creativity, I met a guy named Scott Dakota who, through cycling at that shop in East Long Meadow that we started doing those group rides at. And, he worked for a local toy company, based in Denmark, but has an office in Enfield. And he ended up becoming like a global creative director for them. And he was always super, super like interested in what I wanted to do. He knew like I wasn't happy doing academic tech work, and just was an ultra creative dude. And I think about it. So he unfortunately passed away. He had a tragic accident in Copenhagen, and another bummer story, but for sure, like he was a great dude. And but I think about him a lot, and I think his attitude and like the stuff that we talked about like together, he informs and inspires my photography and pursuit of it, because I think like he's just someone that I looked up to, and through cycling, which is like a weird thing to, you meet somebody through that. You meet all kinds of people through cycling, and
Yeah.
And he was a really creative guy, and I like I don't know. I wish I could ask him for advice now, like about the career transition I'm making.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful that, you had a friend like that and somebody who could inspire you and, and help you, think about cycling in a more meaningful way for you. And then to take that and connect that, to something else, I think is a great way to honor that person's, legacy within you and without you too, outside of you. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I know that's heavy stuff. I have a couple of heavy stories in a row, so my apologies.
That's okay.
I mean, this is the third. I keep a little private log of the number of times I got goosebumps for every show, and I'm up to 4, Stomping Jen.
Do you want to start talking about Sasquatch again?
You want me to go for a goosebump record?
Oh my God. You would get goosebumps from talking about the Sasquatch?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Dan, before we transition into kind of our funner questions, anything else you wanted to touch on with us about, moving out there to the Pacific Northwest, your life there, photography, biking, anything else?
Oh man. If anybody is listening and wants to hire me, please hire me. I'm pursuing a number of different directions with photography, and I'm trying to see what's going to stick. And,
okay.
I've had a lot of informational interviews with a lot of photographers that I know from either back home or here. All kinds of people who've covered protests here, people who do editorial work, so.
Yep. And if you're listening to this, and you're interested in connecting with Dan, we're going to have his information in our show notes. You can find his website at danwalker.me. That's his photography page, and there's contact information there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
the fun questions, Stomping Jen.
Oh, the fun questions.
Yeah.
Oh, so fun.
What are the fun questions?
And I feel like this first one we're probably going to know the answer to because we talked about it. But so let's take cycling out of the equation. What other stuff do you like to do for fun or to reconnect with yourself? It could be anything. It could be yoga. It could be fishing. Maybe not fishing. I'm against fishing.
I am too.
Yep. I knew I would find somebody out there who disliked fishing.
I am a vegetarian. I don't eat fish. I don't eat seafood either. And I used to fish. I used to fish when I was a little kid, and I got tired of watching them die. I like that you are an actual vegetarian, not one of these pretend fish-eating vegetarians. They're called pescatarians.
Why are you yelling?
Because I am upset that there are people out there who claim to be vegetarians who eat fish.
People can eat what they want to eat.
They can't eat what they want. Yeah, but I know.
Stop
I get
dictating
it.
to people.
But you cannot eat fish and call yourself a vegetarian.
Why are you yelling?
Because it gets me mad.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Dan. I apologize.
I've got a lot. No, it's okay.
All right.
What does he like to do?
Into my window.
All right. Sorry. We didn't hear his answer.
Yeah, you didn't even let him. He went on a whole tirade about fish.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, please.
Oh yeah, right. The answer. So yeah. What? Yeah, I like. I'm a drummer. I like to play music, and
nice.
Yeah, that's been great. I haven't found anybody to play with since I've been out here, but my old friend Tom, who's been out here for like 20 years, we've been hyping it up and talking about it, the whole pandemic. Like, we're going to play together, we're going to do it. He bought a new guitar, and so we've been threatening to, release that onto the world, and,
nice.
And we'll see. And other than that, just, long walks, when the city is in better shape, it's pretty nice, but still okay.
Cool.
All right.
Hiking's great. That's another one.
I like the idea of hiking.
But I don't know. When I met you, you hiked every weekend.
I know.
Avidly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, you would go out early in the morning.
That's a lie.
Okay.
It's probably not a lie. I'm just saying that because I don't like to think of
you hiking,
of how I used to be compared to how I am now.
That's okay. That was 25 years ago.
I can't even get out of bed. There's a meme I like on Facebook. Somebody saw it, and I have it pinned to the top of my page. It shows a bunch of penguins on a beach. There's a group of them out in the lead, kind of running, and it says, "People who get up early in the morning to run." And then there's a penguin way behind, bent over, vomiting. And it says, "Me, just trying to process the idea that I'm alive." It just speaks to everything about where I'm at in my life. It's like I'm grateful I wake up in the morning at all.
Why is this about you? This is Dan Walker's podcast.
All right. Yes.
Sorry. It's your podcast. I'm just along for the ride.
No, I have to yell at him.
I was complimenting him with my story that was I?
No, this has nothing to do with anything.
All right. Dan, I like that you go for walks. That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, is that where you were going with this?
Yes, I like walks.
You like walking?
Yes, I love walking.
Oh, hiking. That's where we were.
Yeah, hiking.
Yes,
how dare you, Stomping Jen.
Our kid likes to hike.
Yes.
One of them.
All right.
Our kid does not like to hike.
Our last fun question, and you can take this any way you want. It's okay not to have an answer. Some people don't have an answer. Some people have an answer right away. You can think about it. Whatever you want to do. I'm just going to ask it. All right, here we go, Stomping Jen. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What have you experienced that you cannot explain?
Oh, okay. It's not Sasquatch.
Okay.
But
oh, thank God.
I will. Yeah, but it's close. It's related.
I'm gonna play some music here. Okay.
Make it lower.
So in 2003, I went to Acadia National Park for the first time, and watched the sunset on top of Cadillac Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
all the tourists left. You know, they got their pictures of the sunset. Everybody got in their cars and left.
Okay.
And my girlfriend at the time and I were just up there hanging out, laying on a rock and looking up at the stars. And there were definitely very unexplainable points of light moving in ways that were erratic and rapid. Like,
oh my God.
Very, very. And I know, Sawtooth, that you shared some Navy testimony of
UAP,
evidence of UFOs. But so I don't know. They were very distant points of light, but they looked as though they could, like, immediately begin moving fast and then stop instantly. And they would just do this stuff. And there were like 10 of them. And we watched this for like an hour and a half.
Thank you for sharing that, Dan Walker. That was one of the
most... There were
no
substances involved.
That was one of the most beautiful answers to that question we've ever received.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. I loved it. Thank you. That was a great answer. Thank you for sharing it. Sure. More evidence, Stomping Jen. It's piling up.
I know.
You can no longer be the cold-hearted skeptic that you want to be.
We're not the X-Files here.
A rebranding angle, perhaps?
No.
Okay. All right. Dan Walker, I need to say something to you, and that is thank you for coming on to talk with us. I really enjoyed our conversation and just chatting with you and hearing about your photography, your move out to the Pacific Northwest, cycling. It was great.
Sasquatch, UAPs, you know.
Yeah. Thanks for being here and thanks for talking to us.
Well, thank you. It was great to chat with you both. And I really appreciate the opportunity. And,
thank you.
All right. Stomping Jen.
Yes.
We're going to talk to our listeners now really quickly.
Go ahead.
We're going to say what?
We love you.
Yes, we do. We do love you. Both of us, right?
Uh-huh.
Thank you for...
That's what the we part means.
Thank you for continuing to listen. Mm-hmm. Do all of the things we'd like you to do. Download our episodes. Subscribe to our podcast through whatever app you use. If this is the first time you're listening, or if it's not, just subscribe. Our episodes will pop into your feed automatically. Tell a friend about us if you like hearing our conversations, right? Anything else? No, I think that covers it. So, Dan, we like to end by everybody going around and saying our sign-off phrase, which is bye now. So we'll let you go first.
Bye now.
Stomping Jen. Do you want me to go? You can have the last word. Okay. Listeners, again, we love you. Bye now.
Bye now.
What button do I hit? This one. Bye now.
Oh, you...
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.